Hampton Roads has a long-running high school and college sports tradition. It's time to give them the spotlight they deserve. This is 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Here is Matt Hatfield.
And welcome you back to 757 Sports Talk. Like, share, and subscribe to CoVA Sports TV and interact with us wherever you are tuning in. I am Matt Hatfield. My partner in crime is diligently preparing for basketball practice. What's new? So now with me for this segment of the program, we have a special guest with us. He is the voice of high school football in the 804, the Richmond area. You can find him on WRVA, veteran voice on high school football 910 The Fan. He is the sports director at Audacy Richmond and sports anchor on WRVA. And give him a follow on the X or the Twitter at GHessRVA, our friend Gary Hess. Gary, good to see you. State championship Saturday, nothing better than that. And you've been on the men for quite a while, but you're making your triumphant return to, I think it's going to be Liberty University, the Class 4 finals. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I had an unfortunate accident back in September when I was down almost to your way. I was down at Christopher and had a little spill, and I didn't even fall very hard, but I ruptured the quadriceps tendon in my right leg, which is right above your kneecap. Had to have surgery, and I've been out for a little over 2 months, but wasn't going to miss the chance to do a state championship game. My recovery is going very well, so I will be making the trip to Lynchburg to hopefully, we don't have to be unbiased. We're playing out of town team, so hopefully bring Varina home a state championship against Loudoun County.
There you go. Yeah, you guys can root for the 804. Ed roots for the 757. I got to be impartial doing the whole thing for the state. But it's funny. You came on our program, our special mini cast style we did with Notre Dame,
right?
Miami. And who would have thought after that? Of course, Ed. We can blame Ed for your injury too, by the way. We can blame Ed for everything since he's not here right now.
That works for me.
Yeah, we can.
Hey, the head coach takes the blame. Players get the credit. Head coach takes the blame.
Correct. He's already his first 2 games he lost the opener, so it was his fault losing to Lafayette, and then he won the second game over Isle of Wight, which was all the kids' credit. You're right, but no. In all seriousness, Notre Dame Miami was all the talk this past week with the college football playoff, and I thought Ed would be chucking objects at me and all kinds of people, but he was actually more subdued and calm about it than we thought, and he was a little upset that night when he lost to Miami. But yeah, it's crazy what has happened since early September to now, and that also translates to high school football, where it is surprising, yet we have a lot of the powers that be in the championship games, and we'll start it off in Class 5, Gary, where you have Highland Springs and Maury. Oh, my, we've seen these two before, haven't we?
Yeah, we call that a gathering of the usual suspects, but I will say this is not your typical Highland Springs Maury game. I know you follow this as well, but, I think both of these coaches have done one of their best coaching jobs. You look at I've heard you talk about all the players Maury lost that went to the D1 Power 4 level, and they have come back and done what they've done. And this is one of Lauren Johnson's absolutely best coaching jobs. Number one, kind of trying to make the puzzle pieces fit. But we saw them before my injury earlier in the year against Dinwiddie. They did not look like a state championship caliber team, but that team has gotten better and better and better. And, these two coaches are both very well decorated, and both of them should be very proud of the jobs them and their staff have done with these teams this year.
Yeah, before we dive into some of the players and matchups for that game, as well as Varina, the team you'll be calling with Coach Chris as they take on Loudoun County, the thing that sticks out to me, Gary, a couple things. Number one, the out-of-state opponents that both of them have faced in the case of Friendship Collegiate and Huff for Highland Springs, and mixed results in both those cases. And Maury played Cardinal Gibbons, who they lost too close, Bishop McNamara, who they beat in triple overtime. They've tested themselves outside their districts, the capital for Highland Springs, the Eastern for Maury. And I think that's a credit to those coaches and kids to, be comfortable getting in unfamiliar environments and places, which they've been doing for years and years now.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the cliche when you say iron sharpens iron, I think it really, really does. And I think that Varina's benefited from that as well. But, Highland Springs, now this may not have been vintage Phoebus, but the Springers went down and played Phoebus down in Hampton. They played Dinwiddie. They added Dinwiddie to their schedule this year, which is, that's about, that's top. They're going to play Varina every year. But if you want to test yourself within the 804, Dinwiddie's the way to do it. And then the out-of-town teams. And I just think that really makes you better. I think when you look at the way Highland Springs has improved. Those early season games, Lauren Johnson told us last night on our Tuesday night show that when he played for Coach Beamer said, play tough games early in the season, then you know what you have and what you have to do. And I think that has proven to be true for both of these teams in the Class 5 championship game.
Well, there's a couple of games that stick out to me for each side. Certainly you get in the postseason and you have those battles with a Stonebridge in the case for Maury, who they've seen before, as has Highland Springs, and you play a rematch like Highland Springs did with Hermitage, who they won more comfortably than the regular season encounter over there at Chester Fritz. I think the games that jump out to me, Maury's game with Lake Taylor, who's playing for a Class 3 state championship at Liberty against Kettle Run, that game was tied at 14 in the third quarter with 5 minutes to go, and Maury basically steamrolled from there. And then the game for Highland Springs was the one, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think they had like a 99-yard touchdown at the end of it against Hanover, a very sneaky, improving program under Coach Rogers that they won late. And I think those type of tests helped get them ready for these games in the championship moments.
And that was the last game of the regular season. That was the first, that was right there at the beginning of November. And that game, that looked dicey, but that kick return really gave them some momentum going into the playoffs. The other thing you mentioned, playing Hermitage, that our guys, Steve Adams filling in for me and Coach Chris, did the first, did both Highland Springs Hermitage games for that matter. But the first one was a track meet back and forth, 31-28. But I think it's very interesting. Devon Simmons, who played at Highland Springs, played at UVA, has been the defensive coordinator at Highland Springs the whole time Coach Lauren Johnson has been there, and has, basically, Coach Johnson takes the offense, Coach Simmons takes the defense. And I think it's significant. You give Coach Simmons a second shot at a team, and Hermitage went from scoring 28 to scoring 13. I don't think that is a coincidence. And so just another example of how this team improves and gets better step by step. You're right. That Hanover game, we were following that game. I was at home. The guys were on location. We were following that game. They were doing the Manchester Huguenot game that night. And it looked like that the upset could happen, and special teams made a difference. Frank Beamer, disciple, Lauren Johnson, who played for Coach Beamer, special teams making a difference in a key moment late in the regular season.
Well, as we finish up on that game before we turn the page to Varina, Loudoun County, Gary, how much will special teams be that third element here that matters in this game with the Commodores? Because certainly quick strike players on the field all over the place for Doreen McCain's team, who put up 48 on a Stonebridge defense that had given up 52 all year. They've got Damo Everett, the sophomore quarterback, who looks like the next one at that QB spot. It's setting records potentially for Maury. Tayshawn Branch coming off a 200-plus yard 4 TD effort. But Highland Springs got a guy who's pretty remarkable in his own right, Antoine Buddy Richardson. I can't remember this, the last time a guy got player of the year offensively and defensively in the region. And he matters on both sides of the ball. And we know the Springers have had their share of kick return, punt return guys over the years too.
They really have, and they've got, Malik Bullock. They've got some other guys who can really make a difference in the return game. But I want to talk to you about Buddy Richardson. I can't remember. It's funny you mention that because I don't remember region. I'm sure there's been examples because you and I have both seen many years come and go. But offensive and defensive player of the year in the region, that gets your attention. The other thing is the Springers do not make a regular practice of having their quarterback play on defense. And this was, we're going to turn Antoine. They weren't sure about what the quarterback situation was going to be. And Richardson came to Coach Johnson and said, I'll do it. I'll take it on. But he was too good on the defensive side of the ball not to have him go both ways. And it has really paid off for the Springers. And that is one of those cases. If you watch the Springers play, Richardson is, as a now he's always been great at corner, but as a quarterback is so much better now than he was in September. It was kind of new to him then. Coach Johnson's done a great job kind of molding number 2 there into the quarterback they need him to be to go along with Eric Bird in that running game.
Yeah, I tend to think, and Coach Young said this last week on our show, that's going to be maybe the highest scoring game of the 6 championships with Highland Springs and Maury, just because there's so many athletes on the field, and it's taking nothing away from, as you mentioned, Coach Simmons, the D coordinator for Highland Springs, and Coach Privet, the D coordinator for Maury, but it feels like there can be just some big, long touchdowns throughout that ball game. The other game that you got, the one you'll be calling with Coach Chris, and you can tell the folks that I can listen to it in a bit here, it's going to be at Liberty, Varina, playing Loudoun County, 11:30 kickoff. Blue Devils, known for their stifling defense. They were in a game that had 70 points. A little bit surprising it was that many points against Jefferson Forest. And Loudoun County, which squeaked by Lafayette 25-23, a missed field goal at the gun in that one. What intrigues you most about this match? We know the Blue Devils have been playing mighty well here the last 7-8 wins. I think they're coming in on an 8-game winning streak.
Varina is playing at such a high level, that you look at in week 9 of the regular season, or if you count week 1 to 11, it was week 10. It was that Thursday night before Halloween when Varina actually kind of dominated Highland Springs. The Blue Devils are, when you look at Caleb White and that offensive line and Damari Carter and all the weapons they have on offense and Bull Richardson and those 2 inside linebackers and playmakers in the secondary, Sire Rex and some of these guys, Michael Robinson's son, sophomore Burton Robinson, they just have playmakers everywhere on that defense. This is a complete football team, and there's a lot of guys that were on that team last year who got to Lynchburg and lost to Phoebus. They have unfinished business on their minds. And I think the most interesting aspect of this game is a Varina team that was there last year, that was there in 21, that has been there and done that and has that, they say the standard is the standard. And this is what Varina is all about, facing a Loudoun County team that had never won a regional championship, has never been there before, doesn't know what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so that, to me, is the most compelling thing. Been there, done that, motivated to erase the memory of that loss last year against a team that's showing up at Liberty and has never been on this stage before, which can be a curse but can also be a blessing.
Yeah, it's crazy, Gary. I think Loudoun County's been involved in 4 one-point games this year. They've won 3 of them, and then they just came off a 2-point game where they had to dodge a missed field goal from the Rams, went from almost 50-plus distance or 45-yard distance, whatever it was exactly. But
right.
We spoke moments ago about Coach Lauren Johnson, former Hokie, and I know your colleague Hokie Steve, excited about all the flips James Franklin's gotten, and fans across the Commonwealth should be pumped that UVA's getting so many commitments, and also what James Franklin has done with these flips here lately. The commitments galore, and UVA's got a couple of special ones coming to them from the Blue Devils in Damari Carter and Jay-Sean Bull Richardson. Carter coming off the 3 TD effort. My question to you is for Loudoun County, who's had this magical run, and they don't have as many ballyhooed names, so they do have a 4-star going to Clemson up front in Carter Scruggs on the O-line. Which of the game changers you think concerns the captain's coaching staff more? How you block Bull Richardson or how you deal with Damari Carter on the outside? Because neither is an easy task.
Neither is an easy task. I would say if I had to pick between the two, I would say it would be Bull Richardson. And the reason I say that, I had a coach tell me once that if you were to start a team, and this is a great thing to ask coaches during the off season. If you were to start a team, what position would you focus on first? And a coach told me once defensive tackle, because you control the interior. It sets up what the linebackers can do. It sets up what the defensive ends can do. But I remember when hearing about this kid named Bull, Jay-Sean Richardson, and when he was a freshman, and we go to do a game at Varina, and in the first quarter, we're like, hey, let's see what this freshman kid what he can do. And the first quarter, he was in the backfield like 4 times, tackles for loss. And we're like, oh, it's like that. Okay. And so I can't believe you blink your eyes and he's a senior now. But he's just a game wrecker. And, he just sets up. They have the, 2 great inside linebackers. The defensive ends have had great seasons, secondary, but it all filters out from defensive tackle. And so, they're going to have to figure out how to double team him. And what does that open up in terms of linebacker access, defensive end access? You're going to have to single on somebody and see what happens. So to me, that's the larger concern. Damari Carter is a great guy. It seems to be like he steps it up in the playoffs. You look and you hear very little from Damari Carter, a pass here, pass there, end around, whatever. And then suddenly, boom, last season in the Dinwiddie game down at Dinwiddie, the regional championship, boom, out of nowhere, 3 touchdowns. Last week, 3 touchdown catches. But, Caleb White has the ball in his hands, can do so much running and passing and doing all of that. They've gotten the running backs involved. They have other receivers that can be game wreckers as well. So to me, Damari Carter demands attention. But if you're going to pick between the two, Bull Richardson's the guy you got to deal with and worry about.
I'm with you 100%. It's funny because I've seen it with Damari Carter. He plays better in the big games in both football and basketball. He tends to step it up when the lights are brighter, if you will, the chips are down. And the thing that also jumps out to me, and I know we've seen Caleb Weiss do this at safety. You mentioned Carter both ways. Loudoun County's got a guy that was a defensive player of the year that plays both ways, and Jeremiah Davis Jr., son of assistant coach who played at Penn State, and Jeremiah Davis Sr. We see so many two-way players, Gary, across the state. Buddy Richardson we touched on. And it's usually found at the lower levels, your Class 2, Class 1, Class 3 teams. I think so many of these coaches have realized I'm not taking my best guys off the field. It's where it all matters, and they can make the impact just as much offensively as they can defensively.
Matt, the interesting thing I see is that so many times, especially in these top flight programs, it's like, what can we do to have true two-platoon football? Let's have our offensive guys and our defensive guys. But then when the rubber meets the road, you suddenly see, we always joke about the first of those 4 state championship teams at Highland Springs that had Greg Dortch and Kayvon Wallace and Beckton. And it was funny because now Kayvon Wallace played both ways all along, but Dortch only played offense until it got tough in the postseason. Then suddenly there was Dortch playing safety. And why wouldn't you play him there? And so, I think it's funny to me that they spend so much time trying to some of these bigger programs to create two-platoon football, especially on the lines of scrimmage. But then when the rubber meets the road, let's get that guy in there because he can help. Varina's done that. They're not doing it this year, but they've done it in the past with Bull Richardson, putting him in on the offensive line to see if, they can help block and create some holes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The last couple minutes here with Gary Hess. He is the voice of high school football in the Richmond area. Give him a follow on the X or the Twitter, if you still call it that, at GHessRVA, and he'll tell you how you can listen to him and Coach Criz and his gang give you the game call of the Class 4 finals between Varina and Loudoun County coming up from Lynchburg University at Liberty University in Lynchburg on Saturday. It is 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. I want to get your last thoughts here on just the overall picture of the championship games. There's another 804 team going for a title in Rappahannock. The Raiders at 12-2, a 3 seed taking on a 3 seed in Rye Cove, who's 11-3. They won a 7-6 game, while Rappahannock won a 38-32 game. Only undefeated team left in Virginia high school football is Glenver, with a Charlotte commit who's the VHSL all-time touchdown pass record holder, and Brody Doyot. Glenver taking on Strasburg, who eliminated Pocosin in the semifinals there. Class 3, the game that will follow you guys on the air with Varina and Loudoun County. It's Lake Taylor. It's Kettle Run. Hank Slater goes for his 4th ring, while Kettle Run, which finished the runner-up, the bridesmaid, if you will, to LCA. They rally from 28-9 down, Gary, to beat the 2-time defending state champs there in Class 3. In the Class 6 game, we didn't touch on even Oscar Smith in action against North Stafford, a newbie, if you will, to an extent in the championship round. Tigers go for their 2nd title in a row against North Stafford, who's 11-3. But just your overall thoughts on these games. I know Rappahannock's going for a title, and last week we had 7 games decided by 6 points or less. So I think the state high school football picture is as healthy as it's ever been.
I think it's a couple things I want to mention. I'll start at the top class, and that's in 6. I think Oscar Smith benefited from being tested last week by James Madison a little bit. I think this is and this is another program that did what we talked about earlier, tested itself early in the season, and took an L against a really good team, and that has really benefited them. North Stafford's been away for a while. If I remember correctly, I called a state championship game with North Stafford against Meadowbrook in 2003. I think North Stafford was the team. I could be wrong about that, but I got to look that up.
It was either Meadowbrook or Hopewell. We'll double check.
Yeah, it was I think it was Meadowbrook then.
Yeah. So you're right, because they ended up losing in 35-27.
Yep, after leading 14-0, and Meadowbrook had beaten Hampton the week before, and that was, that's some of my favorite memories of over 30 years of doing this, was that ride with Meadowbrook and those people. But so that's an interesting game to me. Kettle Run, we got to look in person at Kettle Run last year when they knocked TJ out in the regional final, and that is a team that is well coached and just does everything well. And it's like you may not see 5 stars and 4 stars or what have you, but they just do everything well. They get in the right spot, and when they get in a tight spot, no panic, just came back and took care of business last week. I think that's going to be a fascinating game. don't sleep on Strasburg against Glenver either. I mean, Strasburg's a program that's been there and done that and knows, that the culture in that program, knows how to win. And so that's going to be a fascinating game. But what a story Rappahannock is. Essex has been so dominant, and Rappahannock found a way to beat them. First regional title since 1992, and now playing for a state championship, and what you have to feel like is a winnable game against Rye Cove. So I think Rappahannock's one of the feel-good stories that's coming up with championship Saturday, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on how they do on in the late game on Saturday in Salem.
Yeah, the Salem is the site for Class 1 and Class 2. Liberty, the site, of course, where you'll be for Class 3 and Class 4, and I'll be up at JMU for Class 6 and Class 5 title games. Folks can always watch on the NFHS network if they want to see the action, but they can listen to you and Gary, Coach Chris, give them the call of the 11:30 a.m. kickoff between the captains of Loudoun County and the Blue Devils of Varina. How can they do so?
We will be on at 11 a.m. for pregame on Sports Radio 910. If you're in the Richmond area, Sports Radio 910 The Fan, that's 9:10 a.m. and 105.1 FM. Of course, you can get it online on the computer at thefanrichmond.com. You can find a link to that on my my Twitter feed at GHessRVA. Also, you can use the Audacy app. Just look up 910 The Fan Richmond, and you'll find the link there where you can listen to the game as well. Once again, 11 a.m. pregame, 11:30 kickoff. And be prepared. We'd love to have Loudoun County folks listening to us, and we're not going to be overtly us and them, but it will be a pro-Varina broadcast.
Absolutely. And you can also do what I did when I listened to you and Coach Chris do the call of that St. Chris Huguenot. You can yell in the background. I have to be careful. Hey, Alexa, pop up 9:10, and it does. And I'm sitting there watching 3 games, listening to you guys give the call of another game. So it's always there. If you're at home or wherever you are, you can use your other devices too to find it. Well, enjoy the games at Liberty. Say hello to my pal Danny Lewis for me. He'll be up there with a couple of our other staff people and photographers, and have fun with the football action. It's the final one here for December 2025 as far as the high school games go.
I would have loved to have come to Harrisonburg. I've never done a game at Bridgeforth, but I'll say this: Liberty is a great venue. It's a great place to do a game. It is just beautiful, and the stadium's so nice, so looking forward to that, and looking forward to being back in the saddle. My first game since September the 19th, so I'm very excited about it.
Well, stay upright, my friend, and you enjoy the game with Coach Chris, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, be well. Thanks.
That's Gary Hess, the voice of high school football in Richmond. Find him on 910 The Fan, WRVA, sports director at Audacy Richmond, and give him a follow on the X, the Twitter at GHessRVA. We've got more coming your way at 757 Sports Talk. Don't touch that dial. You're watching with us on CoVA Sports TV.